So we're here at a flashpoint over the Ukraine. Russia and U.S. very, very close with weapons. What do you think about the situation? Does the United States have any business being in there in the first place?
I think it's extremely reckless to be so concerned about your own nationalism, your own national interests as we are, your record of standing up to repressive governments, et cetera, and to ignore the history of Russia and the whole sense of nationalism that was affronted by all these changes and all these divisions. And that doesn't mean you cave in and do whatever Russia wants, but you at least don't poke your stick in the eye of the Russian bear, you know. And at the time...
You mean by the stick, the expansion of NATO right up to the border?
I mean, there was a very clear understanding in these agreements that this was not going to... Gorbachev was, in his discussion with Reagan, had a very clear understanding that the U.S. was not trying to do a provocation on the borders of Russia. This has always been the preoccupation of Russia, whether it's under the Tsars, whether it's under Stalin, whether it's under Khrushchev, it doesn't matter. They have this idea of a buffer zone. And World War II confirmed that, you know, the ability of the Nazi army to move on. And anyone who's got any familiarity with that region should understand this is a great point of sensitivity. And there has been a way to work out an accommodation. First of all, we seem to rejoice, if not engineered, and we don't know the full story on that, the overthrow of a government that was getting along with Russia, right? And there was, there were economic dealings and subsidizing oil and the whole gas and the whole business. And so, this once again, it's a playing out of a neoconservative fantasy that you can make these great historical changes and it's not going to cost you. And the same thing happened with Libya, it happened with Iraq, it happened with Syria, it happened with Iran. There's consequences. These other people have their pride, their nationalism, their concerns, everything else. And this dispute with the Ukraine and Russia is by no means necessary to anybody of the interest. Their economies are going to be connected. If they have a constant state of tension, it's going to cost both of them. The situation in Ukraine, which the American media generally wants to ignore, is that you have a civil war. There's no way to look at it, but that, some percentage of that population feels more comfortable with the Russian Orthodox Church, with the connection with Russia, and so forth, and some other percentage feels more desire to be connected with the West. This is a division that is, after all, in some sense, an artificial boundaries of a country, and we have other places in the world where you have these kind of splits, and then the idea is to negotiate some compromise and protecting the rights of people.
All these things seem very reasonable, but what about Congress? Is there any dissent on this? I mean, I'm from Connecticut. We have Senator Murphy, head of the European Committee, and he's all for sending money for weapons to Ukraine.
Well, the problem is the hawks always seem to win in these things because they do two things. They're dealing with an area that most people don't have any knowledge of whatsoever, so they're able to demonize the people they want to demonize. They always present it as if there are no terrible consequences. I mean, the idea of confronting the second biggest nuclear power in the world and being indifferent to their internal politics and the pressures in that society, the sense of lost nationhood, the sense of lost pride. There are real issues in Russia. And the idea that you want to be provocative with them is totally irresponsible. American politicians in the main have been quite willing to be irresponsible, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. If not, we wouldn't have had the Iraq War. Just look at the complexity. If you want to actually deal with ISIS now, you have to work out some accommodation with the Assad government in Syria, which is, after all, sort of the main barrier to ISIS, right? You have to have Russia play a good role in that, right? You want to work out something with Iran, Russia has to play a good role. I mean, come on. We're used to great power politics. Well, Russia is still a great power, particularly from a military point of view. Their influence is real, their experience is real, their contact is real, and so it's folly to do what, particularly what John McCain has done, but here Obama caved to that,
Thank you very much.